Well, and that brings me to my next point, because you were on Drink Champs and you said N.W.A. brought the age of destruction. And a lot of people, particularly other rappers, particularly other West Coast rappers, had a problem with it. But when I first heard it, I said, yeah, I see where he's coming from. You know, me personally, I was like, yeah, I think that's a fair statement. And I remember I even interviewed Alonzo from the World Class Wrecking Crew, who was, you know, Dr. Dre and DJ Yellow's original group. And, you know, and a lot of those N.W.A. records were done at his house and everything else like that. And he told me flat out in our first interview, he's like, look, when, you know, he was promoting a lot of shows in L.A., he said, look, when I was first promoting shows in L.A., yeah, some gangsters would be in the crowd. And yeah, you know, sometimes stuff would happen. There'd be some gang shit, whatever else. But after N.W.A. came out and became uber popular, it'd be like 80% gangsters in these shows. And all hell would break loose on a regular basis. You can't say that N.W.A. had absolutely no role in this. Although people argued with you that you were completely wrong.
When you look at the effects that N.W.A. had in terms of gangster rap, not only affecting the music, but also affecting the communities and so forth. But what do you think about it?
Well, I'm gonna tell you a little story. When I first got into the club business, 1979, now first of all, gangs have been around forever in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Gangs had different reasons for existence. Some gangs started off to fight white people. Some gangs were designed to fight the police in the community, because what we're experiencing right now is nothing new. It's just being televised more. So the ratio of gangbangers to civilians was minuscule in the early 70s and early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, okay? Right after N.W.A., now I've been in the club business all this time, and I stopped making records. Went back to my second career, which is nightclub owner. What happened was N.W.A. and gangster rap made gangster lifestyle cool. So the ratio started to change. Everybody was a gangbanger. It used to be 5% gangbanger, okay? Because gangbangers, once upon a time, had a code. You just couldn't have a gun. You had to be able to fight. You had to have something to bring to the hood other than a pistol. Well, at some point in time, when the dope and the gangbanging became profitable, everybody became a gangbanger. So now you got 95% gangsters or 90% gangsters and 10% civilians. And when that happened, everything went crazy, because now theaters, clubs, parking lots, the park, everything is a war zone.
Well, I would like to say that none of those people were actual members of N.W.A. So for them to have an opinion was just like me having an opinion. Okay, so let's start there. Secondly, I did have a discussion with Cube, and he understands where I'm coming from, and I understand where he's coming from. They say that they were just making, I wouldn't say parody, but records for the hood, selling out the trunk. It wasn't intended for global scale marketing, but that's where it was taken.
Well, I mean, listen, the original records is true, but Straight Outta Compton was a major release that went number
Afterwards.
one. Everyone knew by the time. Straight Outta Compton was so eagerly anticipated by hip hop fans that you can't say this is out the trunk anymore.
Right. Well, they have to take some accountability, but at the end of the day now, once again, we go back to the labels. Now, it comes to a point where the labels are paying artists to emulate this, paying the artists in this genre, paying the artists to send these messages out, to continue, because they did see the effect that it had, just like they saw the effect that empowerment of the conscious music had. The conscious music had an effect. You saw the people walking around with African pride, black pride, medallions, the gear, self-worth and value. But then when you had the market for those records and the gangster shit, you saw the results of that as well. So yes, music does affect people. it does contribute to people's behavior and the outcome. And it's the same thing we're saying now. It has evolved. So from that point until now, it's no longer just that simple. Now it's straight murder music. Now it's drill music. Now it's people directly attacking each other through the music, and that music being supported by these same labels and record companies. So there has to be accountability. Like, it's like I say, I started dealing with reality and I stopped lying. I stopped lying to myself, for one. And then with that being said, if you're not lying to yourself, then you shouldn't be lying to nobody else. So if we're all dealing with reality and our conscience and facts, then we have to look at it for what it is. They are encouraging us and paying us to be destructive, and that's systematic. I think that's part of, a plan of sorts. That's part of an agenda, is for us to take ourselves out so we don't have to do it. You understand? That's real. That's real programming. It's systematic, and it has been going on for decades now. Over 30 years now, we've been getting more and more destructive.